Some people would say that when you turn 25, you finally begin to understand responsibility and accept it. If that's true, NYSIR was 25 when it was a week old.
Relatively few business organizations can legitimately lay claim to the title game changer, but the New York Schools Insurance Reciprocal, NYSIR, is one of them. In the 25 years since its inception, NYSIR has changed the course of insurance in New York by turning public school districts into risk management entrepreneurs in charge of their own property and casualty coverage. But making history wasn't necessarily what its founders had in mind when, in 1989, NYSIR became the first not-for-profit school insurance reciprocal in the state. Their motivation was purely economic.
In the mid-1980s, the insurance marketplace changed fairly rapidly, and property and casualty insurance that had previously been quite affordable suddenly doubled and tripled in price, and the coverages dwindled or in some cases completely disappeared.
Calling the insurance environment in 1984 a hard market might be an understatement. For schools especially, it was nearly impenetrable. After a decade of unusually high interest rates and cash flow underwriting, insurance companies retrenched in the 80s when interest rates plummeted. Raising premiums to excessively high levels was the fastest way for them to offset losses, and customers like school districts found themselves priced out of the market. In some districts, 60 cents on every dollar of new state education aid was being spent on insurance. The New York Times reported that rate increases of up to 300% were commonplace, and the state comptroller warned that the liability insurance problem hampering schools and municipalities was the most important local issue facing state government.
It was more likely for us to succeed if we could put together the kinds of coverages we needed in the ways that we needed to have them done, and have the control over how it would operate, how the entire system in the insurance company would underwrite and interact with its subscribers, controlled by school districts themselves, would be far more efficient.
But the move to establishing a full-blown reciprocal wasn't quick, and it wasn't necessarily smooth either. While the state legislature made it legal by passing insurance reforms, it took a while to convince enough school districts to take the leap. And in the interim, several districts joined together, coached by a small risk management company called Right Risk, which would later become NYSIR's management company.
Right Risk Management was constantly trying to bring new and better solutions to schools for their insurance and risk management needs. In the early years, we performed most of the insurance company services, which included underwriting, marketing, risk management, claim management, and statutory accounting.
Almost everyone said that the public sector couldn't agree and couldn't come together and couldn't do this better than the traditional market could do it. We thought differently.
The transition from cooperative to single constituency reciprocal was the next rational step. And in July of 1989, 54 school districts and BOCES from around New York saw the long-term value of controlling their own insurance destinies and took it. From that point on, they no longer had to deal with insurance companies. They were the insurance company.
So what you're basically doing for school districts is allowing them to break down some barriers that exist in the commercial insurance world where clients might not speak with each other frequently or not have any common goals or interests other than to exchange sort of an economic value. It's really built from the ground up, the districts who combine their efforts. This is a interlocal, one that is really created from the bottom up, from the community itself.
We always thought that if you wanted to become a member of NYSIR, you were joining for reasons other than lowest premium. You're joining because of the risk management program, claims philosophy, control. So we had a very conservative, and the board naturally approved, a very conservative underwriting philosophy.
But a reciprocal business format and a conservative approach to finance wasn't the only thing that set NYSIR apart. Its board of governors had decided as well that it would save money for member districts if the reciprocal adopted an all-in strategy of fighting frivolous claims and not acquiescing to the usual industry practice of settling them for the sake of avoiding trials.
The NYSIR litigation philosophy has always been one of defending what we have investigated and determined to be a frivolous claim. It has resulted roughly in 60% of our casualty claims closing with no indemnity payment.
Over the years, NYSIR's determination to take unworthy suits to trial has discouraged litigants from filing claims and saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts, all of which has translated into healthier reserves and more stable rates for subscribers. In the end, it's estimated that since its inception 25 years ago, NYSIR's focus on risk management, the shared responsibility of reciprocal membership, and a commitment to stand against frivolous claims has resulted in tens of millions of dollars in savings and lower premiums for member school districts. And while the economics haven't changed much over time, the form and function of the reciprocal certainly have.
Back then, we were worried primarily about property losses to buildings, trips and falls, accidents and injuries that arose out of activities. If you can almost like build a timeline, you can see how that program and their exposure base, how much it has evolved. We react to the core issues and exposures that our members face, but we also deal with the things that happen in society that affect them.
In 1990, the New York Schools Insurance Reciprocal consisted of about 30 people doing a little bit of everything. Today, more than 60 administrative, risk management, claims, and client services professionals work for the organization, offering nearly 350 subscribers an in-depth risk portfolio and an expansive array of coverages that has earned NYSIR a reputation for service and financial strength, not only in New York, but across the industry. As always, value is what its member districts seek and almost always find.
What hasn't changed is really our commitment to the subscribers, to our member districts. Whether we're talking about a board of governor, who is an administrator in a school district, or we're talking about a staff person, we're all after the same thing, to support public school districts. Help stabilize premiums, adding coverage, which we've done over the years, not lose the coverage, that's all there. That's the same.
It's a not-for-profit. It's not an organization that is looking to make money. It's an organization that is looking to support the needs of public schools and its members, which that's not the case if you go outside in a private entity.
The value of an insurance reciprocal like NYSIR is that they're familiar with what we do every day. They're school-minded. They are not out-of-the-box insurance company. They don't send it to you in a baggie and say, here's what you get. You get somebody on the other end of the phone that's familiar with what you do every single day.
The resources that comes with NYSIR, the fact that I know the person who's with my district, that there's a level of care that I think that we get that we would not get on the open market.
I think we're unlike any other insurance company out there. We can get a certificate insurance ID card out to an insured within an hour. We can have the policy ready the next day.
NYSIR is great as far as helping assess risk, and they'll come in and they'll do the walkthroughs of your grounds or your buildings. They help say, you should have this, you should take care of this, or look into that.
The value of NYSIR for me is having somebody that you can trust behind you, so when a crisis comes, you have a place to call that will guide you and kind of be like the wind beneath your wings. I found NYSIR to be that in the experiences that I've had.
We've sent people to workshops sponsored by NYSIR, and also NYSIR has sent people directly to our district, and they did a tailor-made workshop just for us.
There are many positive things about our relationship and partnership with NYSIR and the council. As an organization, they really want to invest in leadership throughout the state, develop leaders. We talk about ideas about how both organizations can make a difference in New York State. And I think that's very visionary.
After 2.5 decades of service, NYSIR stands out not just for its distinction as New York's first and only school-owned insurance reciprocal, but for the message that underlies its continuing success. It's a simple message, one that's been heard before, but not nearly enough. This is what happens when good people come together to challenge the norm and work for what they believe in. This is what happens when you stand against the tide by standing together.
So happy 25th anniversary to NYSIR and all the good folks there, and we look forward to another 25 years together.